Welcome to the Great Plains Association for College Admissions Counseling Virtual College Fair. My name is Jasmine. I'm going to serve as your facilitator for our session today. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping announcements. The first, you can use that Q&A button to type your questions to our amazing presenters at any point throughout our session today. Second, your camera and microphone are off, so we cannot see or hear you. Third, this is just one of many different sessions that we're offering, so feel free to sign up for additional sessions. And finally, this presentation will be recorded. You'll have access to that recording within about a week or so. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Stacy for introductions.
Thank you, Jasmine, and welcome everybody. Good evening and welcome to GPACAC's Virtual College Fair. As Jasmine stated, my name is Stacy Everett and I am a GPACAC Executive Board member. And on behalf of the Great Plains Association for College Admission Counseling, I would like to warmly welcome the students, families, and counselors spending the evening with us. We are honored to host students, families, and counselors from all 3 states that we represent: Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. And thank you to the 145 colleges and universities that will be presenting this evening during our college fair. To kick off our virtual college fair, we are pleased to provide a panel of experienced college admission counselors and high school counselors to share effective strategies and philosophies on ways to maximize your college exploration search. Today's panel is for students, parents, and guardians that are in the middle of the college exploration process and would like more guidance in order to ease any worry that may exist. And I thank our 4 panelists in advance for all of their assistance and hard work tonight. To begin with, I'm putting in the chat the 6 topics that we will discuss tonight. 2 panelists have already been assigned to speak to each topic. We will spend approximately 5 minutes discussing each topic. We invite students and family members to post questions related to our topics in the Q&A chat, and we will do our best to answer them as we discuss these topics. Maureen Lawler, a high school counselor from Bishop Kelly High School, will also help answer these questions. So to begin our time together, I now ask each panelist to provide a brief introduction. During the introduction, I invite the panelists to share their name, their institution, the number of years they have been working with students in education, and one thing they always do or see when they are visiting a college campus. Lisa, I will have you start our introductions.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Hatch. I'm from Westside High School in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been in education for 12 years now, and 7 of those have been as a high school counselor here at Westside. One thing I always do when I visit a campus, and you can kind of see them over here, is I always go to the bookstore to get decals because I hang them up after every visit.
All right, good evening. My name is Sasha Kaczynski, and I am a college counselor at Wichita Collegiate School. And I've been working with students in higher ed for about 6 years now. Before I was at Wichita Collegiate, I was working in admissions at the University of Kansas. So kind of enjoy having experience from both sides of the desk. My kind of favorite thing that I try to do on campus visits is just to take in the surrounding community, because that's going to be the students' home for the next 4 years. So.
Awesome. My name is Kamen Nixon, and I'm an admissions counselor at Creighton University here in Omaha, Nebraska. I've been doing this for a little over 3 years now, and I work with students in Omaha and also on the East and West Coast as well. So kind of all over the place. One thing I look for when I'm, visiting college campuses or on different campuses, really trying to try the food if you can. That's one thing. And then another thing would be just kind of seeing how the students interact with each other, observing that, seeing how they interact with their faculty and staff as well. I think that can be really telling with the college campuses that you're looking at.
Hi, all. My name is Hannah Smith. I am an admission counselor at the University of Tulsa, and this is my 5th year in college admission. The thing that I always do when I'm visiting a college campus is I ask everyone that I come into contact with what their most favorite thing is about their university and what their least favorite thing is about the university, because I feel like you can really get some really candid answers from everybody, students, staff, faculty that you interact with on the college campus.
Great, thanks panelists, and what wonderful pieces of advice to start off our time together tonight. To begin with, we're going to start with our first topic, and that topic is how to research colleges based on fit. And many high school counselors often stress to students and families the importance of finding colleges based on a fit, but many students may be confused by what this means and how to find a college fit. So tonight, Sasha and Cayman will share advice on how to determine a fit. Sasha, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, in our office at Collegiate, we talk a lot about fit. My students probably are sick of hearing about, is it a great fit for you? But fit is so important in this process, and we kind of break it down into three kind of general areas of fit in our office. We say, is it an academic fit? Meaning, does it even have your major or area of study? Are the rigor of academics what you're looking for? Is there a research opportunity that interests you? The size of classes, but thinking about that academic fit. Then we also look at social fit. That's a part of it, right? It's going to be your home. You need to be happy on that campus. You need to feel like it's your community. Are there ways to engage? Thinking about social fit. And then kind of the least fun, but often most important, is financial fit. And that conversation, we highly encourage, have that early in the conversation. Are there scholarship opportunities? Does it fit within your family's budget? Because if that financial fit piece, if we haven't talked about that and it's the end of a student's senior year and, oh, they've got this great school, it's a great academic fit, it's a great social fit, but oh wait, we didn't realize it doesn't fit in the college or in our family's college budget. That's a very disappointing conversation to have. I think for students, it's hard to articulate fit and understand fit. So we kind of back it up and we talk about, well, before we think about fit, let's talk about what you value. What's important to you? Okay, family's important to you. Well, maybe that means we need to focus on location in your college search. Does that mean you want to be close to home, close to family in another state, another city? So I would suggest for students who are trying to figure out, well, I don't even know what a good fit for me is, start with what you value and what's important to you and make that list and see how you can relate it to a college and your college search.
Yeah, I will also build on that a little bit. I think Sasha has some awesome points there. A lot of things I was planning to cover too. So when I really think about determining fit, I think it's important to remember that the college search is going to look different for everyone. Your search is going to look different from your friend's search and someone at a different school search and everything. So really make the decision that's going to be best for you and for your family. And what Sasha was talking about, think about the education, think about the social fit and the financial fit when considering all of that. I really recommend for my students to focus on a lot of self-reflection as they are considering where they want to apply to college and where they're going to search. So, just the things you might consider are things like, what is my dream job? What extracurricular activities am I interested in? Do I want private or public, college town or a city? Is size an important factor? And like, what services do these schools have? So think about some of those different kinds of things. There's plenty of other questions that you can also be asking that can really be beneficial in your search, and definitely make a list of those things. Figure out what your top priorities are and try to figure out which schools are going to meet those priorities. I think there's a lot of great resources out there for students when it comes to actually, searching for colleges. A Google search can always be helpful. You can always toss in, what's the best college in my state for this program or that program, and that's, that will actually bring up some fruitful results. You don't need to put in all of your non-negotiable factors when you're doing those initial searches, but it can be helpful in just kind of making those initial determinations. I think there's also some really great additional resources out there. I know some of my students use Niche, which is a pretty solid tool that's very user-friendly with college search and scholarships. Naviance is a great resource if your school uses that. And then US News and World Report is a pretty solid research. And for our Nebraska kids specifically, Education Quest, I think, is a really great resource as well. So use those resources. And also, I'd say, like, the kind of final thing, essentially lean on your school counselor. School counselors, I think, have a really unique position where they know exactly, they've been working with students for however long they've been doing this, and they're really great. They might have some schools that you might not even be thinking about, things that might not be on your radar, but they could see you and see that that would be a great fit for you. So it doesn't hurt to ask them. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got for some advice there.
Wonderful. Thank you both. The second topic for tonight is how to best utilize the various college search engines. And I know for students and families that when they begin this process, there's over 3,500 colleges and universities just in the United States alone, and then many more internationally. So students may initially feel very overwhelmed with college opportunities and uncertain about where to start the college search process. And some of this too may be dependent upon timing as to what age they are in high school. With that being said, Lisa and Sasha will provide tips on how to utilize the various college search engines that are out there for students as they start this process. So Lisa, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. This is a great follow-up to the conversation that Sasha and Cayman just presented, because this is kind of the order that we do things at Westside. So we really have students focus on what their needs and their desires are when it comes to college. And then we turn them to the search engines. Us personally at Westside, we use SCORE right now. And I think Sasha's going to talk about that a little bit. So I'll talk about some other ones. But we also use some just kind of for students that are in the beginning phases. And one of those is Big Future. Big Future is a great one. It's put out by College Board. It's great for those that are just kind of starting out on their search because it has a step-by-step process that students can follow to help narrow down maybe what they're looking at. So I have a lot of students that come and say, well, I want to go somewhere on the East Coast. Well, there are a lot of schools on the East Coast, so let's narrow that down. So if they need a little more help through that, finding their values and their goals, Big Future is a good way to do that. And then they do really dial down on the information for each college, and they present a lot in a very neat and orderly fashion, which I appreciate. So I have a lot of students that like to use that in addition to our SCORE resource that we have here at Westside. Another one that Cayman mentioned was Niche, and that's another popular one. And that's one that kind of I've started to use a lot more just for a quick snapshot. It's full of statistics as well as student reviews, parent reviews. They have letter grades for each one. So it's kind of like if you're looking for a house and you want to look at the schools in that area, it looks just like that, but it's for the colleges. In addition to those reviews from parents and students, they also have US Department of Education rankings throughout there. They also include some scattergrams to see, so you can see kind of how your students' GPA and test scores might line up with current students there at the college. One drawback that I have noticed on Niche is there's a lot of promotional ads, so it can get a little bit distracting at sometimes and can kind of take away from some of that content they have. But again, overall, it's a great one just for a quick little snapshot. Turn it over to you, Sasha.
Okay, great. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, so at Collegiate, we use SCORE as well, which we really love. And so our students are primarily going into their SCORE account and using the college search tool there and filtering through and researching colleges that way. So I think I'll kind of focus more on kind of like Lisa was touching upon, kind of search tactics. I would say, 3,500 colleges and universities, that is overwhelming for anyone. And at the end of the day, students get one choice. So I would suggest, instead of feeling overwhelmed, start with, again, fit and filtering by, what are your priorities? What do you want to look for in a school? And really narrow down your list and go from there. Also, just before you even dive into the search engines and researching schools, being familiar with the terms that you're going to see. I mean, you're going to be seeing things like retention rate, mid 50%, mid-sized campus. Well, what do those things mean? I think early on in the search, you might not be familiar with those terms. So being able to understand, like, yes, I am looking for a mid-sized university, and I know what that means and what that looks like. And also with like the ranking lists, they are helpful. They can be a great place to start. But again, go back to fit. It may be, a top ranked school in this degree program or this area, but is it still a good fit for you? Because it might not be. So use the rankings, but also look further and dig deeper, because you're really ultimately looking for the right fit for you.
Great, thank you. The next how-to topic is how to make the most out of your in-person college visit before, during, and after. High school counselors and college admission professionals advise students and families to visit the college campuses if you are able. For a variety of reasons, that helps really create a picture or an understanding about what your college experience will actually look like, because you're walking around the campus and seeing the student, faculty, the academics, the social life, everything come to life. So tonight, Hannah and Lisa will share insight on how to prepare for and make the most out of your in-person college visit. And Hannah, we will start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, so we are on the college side huge believers of the campus visit. I think it is a really critical piece of the college search process, and like Stacy said, can really impact how you feel and where you go with your decision. So before you do your campus visit, do some research on what all the campus visit entails to make sure that you're taking advantage of all of the different opportunities they offer on those individual college campuses. Sometimes you can meet with faculty, sometimes you can sit in on classes, sometimes they offer like lunch or coffee with current students. So definitely do your research and see what all that campus visit entails and what's available to you so that you can take full advantage while you're on campus. I always tell students, prepare questions ahead of time and then keep track during the visit so you know what to ask before you leave campus. So you can kind of keep track during the visit, make sure that your questions are being answered, during presentations or during conversations with faculty. And so then at the end of your day, if you're asked, what additional questions do you have? You're not just like, well, I don't really know. You want to take full advantage of, the resources that you have while you're on campus. And then I always encourage to plan a little bit of time to explore campus on your own. Of course, these colleges are going to be putting their best foot forward during the campus tour and during the presentations. And I think it's really important to just kind of give yourself some space and walk around campus, see like the ease of traffic, and maybe, ask some questions to some people that aren't trained in giving the exact right answers or, that sort of thing. I think it's also really important to observe the environment on campus and ask your questions to multiple different people. Like I said at the beginning, I always ask what your most favorite thing is and your least favorite thing is to everyone I encounter on college campuses, because I think it's important to get that differing opinion from lots of different people. Also keep in mind what's going on campus, and kind of keep track of those different vibes and those different things on the different college campuses that you visit. If you visit a campus and it is beautiful, sunny, 70 degrees, it's just like, ethereal on campus. And then you go visit another campus and it's 12 degrees and, you're obviously going to have very different kind of gut reactions when you think about your time on campus. Also, if there's like fun social events, if it's homecoming on one campus and then it's like midterms week when you go visit another campus, I think that's really important to keep in mind when you're kind of comparing so that you can compare apples to apples. And then follow up with your admission counselor after you leave campus so that you can ask any of those lingering questions that you weren't able to get answered, or, as you're kind of digesting with your parents or friends in the car ride home, you can be like, okay, well, like I felt this way on this college campus and today I felt this way. And kind of recognize if you're an external or an internal processor. Do you need to go and journal about the time that you were on campus, or do you need to talk to your college counselor or a friend about your time on campus to really digest, what all you took in and all of that. And then continue your research. I think that's really important to kind of make those connections for yourself after you're done with your time on campus. Lisa, do you want to go?
Perfect. So I know you touched on some of the stuff I was going to touch on, which is good because that means it's important. So like Hannah said, I always tell my students, go with questions in mind, because like she said, if you get to the end and you don't know any questions or you don't have anything prepared, that really helps to kind of lead that conversation and give you something more to think about once you've left that campus, and help you to kind of check the boxes if you might. A big thing that I always stress too is check dates. So make sure to visit that campus if you can while school is in session, because it's going to feel very different if they're not in session versus if they are in session. Because I know one school we visited over spring break and you couldn't even get a feel for what the school actually was because there were no students on campus. If you have the opportunity, talk to those departments of interest. So I have a lot of students this year that are looking at theater. So I said, when you go visit, make sure you visit those theater departments, talk with those instructors so you can really find out the opportunities that may exist for you as early as freshman year, all through senior year. One thing that I always tell them while they're walking around campus is, can you picture yourself there? Some of you may get this aha, this is it moment. Some of you may not, but that's okay. But can you picture yourself here for the next 4 years? And some that's too far thinking, but can you picture yourself here for a semester, maybe? And then another big thing, and I don't think you mentioned this, is to go visit the surrounding areas. And that's something that I always make sure to do too, is can you see yourself downtown? Because you're not going to spend your whole time on campus while you're in college. You have a lot more free time than you do in high school. So go check out the downtown area. Is there a Target nearby if you need a Target? Or are you one of those that wants to be far away from something else, far away from the airport or anything like that? So just kind of not only taking the campus, but taking the surrounding areas to make sure everything that you need is there. And that also could include any hobbies or interests that you have too. So, and that I kind of work on with students when developing their college list as well. Trying to think if there's, I'm a big spreadsheet person. So I tell my students to create a spreadsheet or a document once they leave and keep adding colleges once they visit. So that way they can keep track, and right away, if you go to that spreadsheet, say, these were my immediate feelings. So that way, if you really need to start narrowing down the list, you can go straight to that spreadsheet and get that immediate feedback that you had. And then the last one, I always say to double check where health services are. Do they have any mental health offerings? Because maybe you don't feel like you need that now, but you might when you move away from your family. So check on the offerings that they have and what that structure looks like in that college.
Wonderful. Great advice so far, panelists. Thank you so much. I just appreciate all of the insight and feedback in terms of advice for students and families. Our next topic is how to maximize the virtual college visit and virtual resources. And we all know very well that colleges and universities, as well as education across the gamut, has really had to pivot quickly and provide virtual opportunities to visit campuses due to COVID. So the last year has looked dramatically different in terms of what colleges are able to offer. And the virtual visits have definitely increased. Institutions are offering a variety of resources online, which already existed to some degree, but I think have been definitely enhanced to a much different level now. And those resources include live virtual visits, recorded campus tours, as well as live virtual campus tours where students are walking around with iPads showing families the campus, recorded and live info sessions, mini videos based on majors and student programs, and student videos are popping up all over the place. These virtual resources will likely remain a component of the college research process from here on out. So Cayman and Lisa will now share advice on how to encourage students and families in really engaging to whatever degree they can in the virtual college resource process based on their needs, because I think too, this is an area where it can be a little overwhelming. So how do you help families and students tailor all the virtual information down? So Cayman, we'll have you start with sharing some advice.
Awesome. Okay, so kind of building on what Stacey was saying here, the virtual visit is very popular right now. It's kind of the hot thing. So I do think that colleges will continue doing these moving forward. I think we've really seen a lot of value in being able to connect with students who aren't just from your area or have the means to be able to travel to campus. So it's really great to be able to give you some kind of a campus experience without actually leaving your home. So a couple of pieces of advice I've got here for you. Kind of building on what Stacey was saying, not all virtual visits are the same. So when you're signing up for a visit, be sure that you're aware of what exactly you're signing up for. Whether it's a webinar, just a presentation, it could be a student panel, it could be a virtual tour, a one-on-one meeting with admissions. It can really be just about anything. I think colleges have gotten very creative with the variety of the different options that you have. So just be sure you know exactly like what you're getting into, and if it's unclear, definitely reach out ahead of time. Kind of like leading into the preparation for these meetings. I'd say spending, kind of very similar to the actual on-campus visit, spending, 15, 20 minutes coming up with a list of questions for your virtual visit will make it a much more fruitful experience for you. Sometimes it feels like when you're running virtual events that you're just kind of talking to a bunch of blank screens. You don't really know if people are actually out there. So, when we ask for questions, whether it's in the chat or, live questions or whatever it might be, it's always great having someone who's who's responding there. And I think, as an admissions counselor, I love, engaging with those students, and I will actually make note of students who are engaging, asking questions, so I can follow up with them in any way that I can. So be sure to do that. Taking advantage of both live events, but also like the non-live recorded materials as well is very important. So it's not necessarily as fun, but like some of those recorded sessions and prepared videos can be really beneficial for you in that college search. I know for Creighton, we have a ton of different materials that we've done over the past year. They're just readily available for students. So those are pretty impactful and sometimes really just kind of unique opportunities. Like we have parent panels, student panels, all different kind of stuff like that. And if you do engage with any of those recorded materials, you can always feel free to reach out to those admissions counselors, back to those admissions offices, and give us feedback. This is still new for all of us. For the most part, no one has really been doing this much virtual activity to this point. So give us feedback. We love hearing back and love hearing from you and engaging with you.
To follow up on that, I would say preparing for a virtual tour is a lot like preparing for a in-person tour. One thing that I try and do, if possible, is to have a student go through the virtual tour. And then if it's not live, see if they can piggyback it with a call with the college rep. So that way they can get their questions answered right away and they're kind of fresh in their mind. That's something that we were able to offer our students this year is we did a virtual tour together and then we got the college rep to Zoom in to kind of answer the questions and give a little bit more detailed feedback than they provided on that tour. I would say this year, like Cayman said, a lot of colleges stepped up their game in this virtual environment because nobody could travel to campuses. So the resources that are out there are amazing. And like I said earlier, we use SCORE and there are tons of virtual tours on there. I know Naviance had some on there as well. And a lot of the colleges also have that on their sites now as well too. A lot of those do have a guided person that kind of walks you through the buildings, which is kind of cool. But again, it's not super interactive. So if you can piggyback that with something else. And then colleges are also offering a lot of panels, like Cayman said. So those are a really good opportunity to kind of get feedback from, because a lot of times they'll have students on there too. So get feedback from other students on campus that maybe you wouldn't have the opportunity to do if you weren't actually able to travel to that college in person. Also take notes, ask questions, like I said, just kind of be interactive with it if you're able to, and just take advantage of all those resources that are out there because there are so many this year. And I think they'll continue to multiply as time goes on too, just because of the importance of having that stuff available, just especially for those students that aren't able to travel to those locations.
Great. Our next topic, I should say, switches gears a little bit and focuses more on the parents. Parents have a critical role in supporting their children throughout the college process. And Sasha and Hannah will share specific advice on how parents can best support your child or children while also maintaining a positive parent-child relationship throughout the process. So Sasha, I'll pass it off to you.
Great. Thank you, Stacy. Yes, I do have a few points that I want to kind of go over with parenting advice. And I think first and foremost, I mean, just know your student and and know if they're ready to have the college conversation or not. And if they're not, that's okay. I know everybody's going to kind of be going at their own pace in this process. And some students are going to be ready to talk about it sooner than others. And so just kind of respect that and follow your student's lead. I think in our office, we often make the recommendation, maybe it's just one night a week at dinner is college talk night or whatever you want to call it, but you reserve it for one night. You say, hey, what kind of college research have you done? What are you thinking? Do you want to go on a campus visit? And then the other nights of the week, maybe it's just off limits and you don't even go there. The other piece of advice is, when your student is kind of in the thick of it, in the process, really empower them to own the process, because it is their journey to take, their decision to make, and they really need to own it. Being organized with deadlines, doing the work, doing the work on their essays and applications. And I know parents, it's easy to think, oh, I'm just going to help them and I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the admissions rep. And actually, that can really hinder your student. Admissions reps want to hear from the student. They want to see the student take that step and take the initiative to call or to ask those questions. So just empower your student, tell them to own this process, because in the end, it's their decision to make. I did see a fun kind of sports analogy. I see all types of parents in our office, and it's really up to you on what type of role you want to take. I have parents that come to every meeting. I have parents that come to one meeting and say, you know what, I'm out, my student's going to own this, just keep me updated. So kind of think about what role you want to play. But I did see this, I thought this was kind of helpful in thinking about what role you want to take on as a parent. Some parents choose to be like a coach. They provide guidance, support, and give their student all the tools to be successful and kind of more hands-on, and they may come to every meeting. Some are cheerleaders. They provide support and encouragement and really try to keep their student excited through the process. And then maybe you're more hands-off and you're more like a spectator. You care about the student, you're cheering for them, but you really want to kind of keep your distance in the process. All of those roles are fine. I think you just have to know your student, know your role as the parent, and what works best for you guys as a family.
Yeah, Sasha, I love the different roles. I love that analogy. That's awesome to kind of say like, okay, what trope do you want to be? I think that's really helpful in thinking, like framing that instead of like, oh, I'm just going to help them by sending this quick email. Like what stereotypes are you falling into? We know that the parents are really a crucial part of this process, but Sasha's right. Admission counselors, we love to see students self-advocate for themselves. And so I'm just going to run through some like quick do's and don'ts. So don't fill out the application for them. It's obvious if you do, especially if you leave things in fields such as, hey, student name, your admission counselor said this is really important to fill this out so that they get to know you better. Your student obviously didn't proofread before they submitted it, so maybe just let them take the reins on the application. Do help them make a system that works for them to keep track of deadlines and tasks on their own so that you don't have to keep hounding them about, did you get that in? Did you get that in? Hey, this deadline's coming up. Don't fill out scholarship applications for them. Common thread, right? Let them do it. We want to get to know the student. It's the student that's going to be getting the scholarship, not you. So let them do it. Do help them set up a college email so that they have a designated spot for all things college. And so then they can keep track of things and you're not getting bombarded with emails. Don't reach out to the admission counselor and then ask us not to tell your student that you're reaching out on their behalf. It's okay if you want to call during the day to say, hey, I just have a quick question about this. we get students that are super busy during this time, and they don't have a lot of time between our working hours of 8 to 5. That's perfectly fine. Have them shoot us an email. I think it's also really important to think about, like, they probably don't have a lot of experience composing professional emails. So instead of saying, hey, have you emailed TU? Hey, have you emailed Creighton? Maybe walk them through like how to compose a professional email and make sure they feel comfortable reaching out to their admission counselor, to faculty, to different staff on the campuses that they're considering. And then maybe they'll feel more empowered after that to compose the email on their own without you having to poke and prod. Don't take control of meetings with admission or faculty or current students. Let your students take the lead. Even if you want to just like have a little meeting beforehand to say, hey, these are the questions that we need to get answered. Even if it's your question, have your student ask it, because I think then the answer means more to them. This can be a huge learning process for the students, learning lessons in professionalism, in handling tough news with grace, in time management and communication. So let them learn.
Thank you. Our final how-to topic is how to enjoy the college exploration process. What tips and tricks and ways do you have so that the college process doesn't seep in to all of the fantastic high school experiences that you want the students to enjoy over the course of 4 years, and that it's not just focusing on having the student research colleges and apply to college. So with that, Cayman and Hannah will share advice on how to enjoy the process. So Cayman, I will pass it off to you.
Yeah, thank you. So I've just got a couple of quick things. This is kind of fun one to finish on. So kind of circling back to one of the things we were talking about earlier, I think a really fun thing you can do with this college search process is actually visiting campuses in person when that's available and safe. And one of our other panelists was speaking earlier about, not just being on campus, but also really experiencing the town or the city that you're in with that visit. I think it's a fun way to, if you can, travel and, get to see some new places, try some new things, but really talk to the people on those campuses about, what is student life like here, both on campus and off campus, and like, in the city. What are the favorite restaurants? What are the shops? Where do students actually spend their time? And take a day to actually go see those places. Because you will ideally, be living on this campus for 4 years or so, or at least for some amount of time. So just, really make sure you're learning about the town and the place that you're going into. Another thing I would say is just really try to limit your stress. If you can, make a calendar and, figure out when your deadlines are and everything. If you're not running right up into those deadlines, it'll be a lot less stress on you. So lean on the people around you, whether that's your parents, your teachers, your school counselors, whoever that might be, and kind of help them or work with them on, developing a plan for how you can de-stress throughout the college search process and then also the scholarship application process as well. And then last thing I have is just really, try to enjoy your senior year. Don't, let the college search consume all of your time and all of your energy. Make sure that you are still, going to those dances or, going to your spirit week and like doing all those kind of fun activities. Those like the last time you'll have all of your high school friends in one place doing everything together. It's a pretty unique educational and social experience. So don't stress so much about college that you can't enjoy that. Really try to make some time for your high school experience.
Yeah, I love what Sasha was saying earlier about setting aside a separate time to like talk college, to like talk shop. I think it can be really exhausting for students to have like every family conversation just always coming back to, oh, well, hey, by the way, did you send that email? Or, oh, hey, by the way, did you sign up for that information session? Or what do you think about this campus? Or, just constant questions, and having that be like the only conversation that you're having with your student at that time can get really exhausting. So set aside a separate time, and if you can, make it the same time every week. I think that will help, just one, not have every conversation be dominated by college, but it also gives your students kind of like an unofficial deadline to have everything kind of wrapped up by that time of the week so that they have something to report back to you. So you can ask them your questions about, okay, did you sign up for this event? Okay, did you email your admission counselor? Okay, did you sign up for a meeting with a faculty member? And it kind of gives them a little bit for, those procrastinators, which we're all guilty of it, to have a little deadline that they can work towards each week to kind of move the needle forward in the decision process a little bit. And then, as Cayman was saying, lean on the people around you, take advantage of the resources that you have. Go to your school counselor, and if you don't know what questions you should be asking, literally ask them, what questions should I be asking right now? And I'm sure that they would be more than happy to give you a long list of things that you should be thinking about and asking questions to those around you. If you are like prone to anxiety or like overthinking, like I am, I love lists because that kind of like gets me out of my head and can actually like see actionable items on the page. And so if it helps you, just to kind of like get a plan down on paper or, on a note on your phone or in a Word document, just to like get a plan and get it out of your head so that you're not dwelling on it. So then you can enjoy prom and, Spirit Week and all of the things that Cayman mentioned that you should be taking advantage of, and you should be having a really fun time. And you're getting pressure from everywhere else. I'm sure that, everybody is asking you, so where are you going to go to college? What are your plans for next year? So don't put more pressure on yourself than you need. Use your resources around you. You're going to find a place where you belong. Just trust the process and use the resources and make the most of it.
Great, thank you. I have appreciated everybody mentioning time and time again the relationships and the people that are here to support you throughout this process, from school counselors to your parents and family to any of the college admission professionals that you interact with. Obviously, they have definitely a love for their own school, but ultimately, everybody wants each student to wind up in a place that's the best fit for them. And so thank you all for sharing these pieces of advice so eloquently. In conclusion, we ask for everybody to share one of your favorite pieces of advice that you give to high school students or parents. That typical piece of advice that, gosh, if I could recommend anything, this is the nugget I recommend. So Hannah, we will kick it off with you for that final piece of advice.
Yeah, I don't know what more I can say. I feel like I gave all of my advice in that last question, but I think the biggest takeaway is just, take the pressure off of yourself and go with your gut. And, at the end of the day, you can have all of your lists, you can have all of your check boxes, you can have all of that analytical information that you've like run over time and time again. But I think ultimately it's just gonna, going back to that conversation about fit, you have to just kind of go with your gut, and whatever you think is best, you're gonna make the most of it.
I'd say for my just last piece of advice, it's okay to lean on your college admissions counselors as well. I think, we really want to help you out. Ideally, we want you coming to our schools, but also I think, one of our main goals is helping you find that best fit and make sure you're going to be able to go to wherever is going to be best for you. So lean on us, ask us questions, help us help you. So we're always happy to do those things.
All right, mine's pretty simple, but I think it applies to every part of this process, and that is just plan ahead. Plan ahead for your meetings with your college counselors, with your college campus visits, testing dates, admissions deadlines, and then also your reaction to decisions. How are you going to react if you get good news? How are you going to react if you get disappointing news? So every part of the process, just plan ahead, and I think that organization will serve you well.
And I always say to keep the list manageable too, because you're waiting on those decisions. So if you get 20 yeses, then you still have to make the decision. So I always say to keep that list manageable before you start applying. That way that kind of cuts out some of that need to visit 25 different schools or needing to send all those applications and stress out more. Because ultimately I always say have fun in this, because it is, I mean, it should be fun. It shouldn't be stressful, and we're all here to help. So call on anybody for help. We're always there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing fantastic wisdom and advice with such sincerity. And as you can see from all of the panelists, very much everybody in this process puts the students and the families first and helping you find that next best college fit as you prepare for your next chapter after high school. So many thanks to the panelists for sharing their time and insight. And at this point, I will turn it back over to Jasmine for closing reminders in preparation for the remaining portion of the college fair.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stacey. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you again to all of our amazing panelists and our amazing attendees. As you all exit our session today, a survey will appear. It's approximately 4 questions, but please complete the survey. It is very helpful as we aim to improve our virtual college fair offerings in the future. Also want to remind you to sign up for additional sessions, right? And then finally, a recording of our session today will be available within about a week or so. So feel free to visit strivescan.com/GPACAC. With that said, again, thank you all for joining us. I hope everyone has a great evening.